We have yet another grateful, insightful discussion exploring crypto ecosystem. First, we have a sneak peek into Cosmos ecosystem. Welcome, everyone.
Welcome everybody to the Cosmos ecosystem panel. I'm joined by 4 great speakers from 4 great projects, and I think we can maybe start with a short round of introductions about yourself and also briefly about the project.
Hi everyone, I'm Mikhil, and I'm the co-founder and chief strategy officer at Persistence. We've been building in Cosmos for 4.5 years now officially, and more than that unofficially, but we started building out for real world assets but immediately moved towards liquid staking in 2020. We were kind of early into staking, early into liquid staking, also kind of early into restaking now, so we're building restaking for Cosmos in a big way. So similar to EigenLayer, but making it more gamified, making it more risk averse in a big way. That's kind of what we do. Again, liquid staking and restaking are 2 of our biggest focuses.
Hey everyone, great to see a lot of old friends here. I'm Yorgos, co-founder of Axelar. We're an interoperability platform based on the Cosmos SDK, so the Cosmos ecosystem is very relevant to us. In the early days, when we started building Axelar, we saw the IBC connectivity protocol in the Cosmos ecosystem, and that inspired us to build Axelar to connect all chains, even besides Cosmos. And today, most projects that connect to the Ethereum ecosystem through Cosmos, they do it through Axelar.
Hello. Hi. Oh. So I'm Faisal. I'm the founder of Entangle Protocol. So similar to Axelar, actually, we are an omni-chain, fully customizable omni-chain interoperability protocol. So we are also based on the Cosmos SDK, but we have a network of distributed off-chain machines, which are also proof of stake, that work with our blockchain in tandem to distribute messages, assets, and relaying information between different blockchains, not only just IBC, but also outside of the Cosmos ecosystem. And in addition to that, we've built a number of primitives focusing on liquidity optimization and general fragmentation issues at the blockchain level and application level.
Hello. Hola, everyone. My name is Zahn. I'm a Chief BDSM Officer at Inisha. That stands for Business Development Strategy and Marketing. Inisha is a network for interwoven rollups. We're holistically rebuilding how multi-chain networks should look, feel, and operate along 3 main verticals: the architecture stack, the product stack, as well as the economic systems that bind these networks together. We are heavy users of the Cosmos SDK, as we're essentially a Cosmos SDK-based layer 1. We've built a new optimistic rollup framework that's in the Cosmos SDK as well. And then our layer 2s are essentially full-fledged Cosmos SDK chains. You can change everything about the rollup itself on the Cosmos SDK side. And then we've integrated EVM, MoveVM, and WASM VM on top. So you can pick whatever smart contracting environment works best for you and your application.
Yeah, and also quick introduction about myself. I'm Michael. Also known as Cryptocito. So I have a YouTube channel which is primarily focused on the Cosmos ecosystem, and also co-founded Stakecito, which is a validator, and also Cosmoverse, which I hope you guys are also coming to this year. It's actually here in Dubai, late October. But yeah, so let's start off. I think many people actually have a bit of a misconception what Cosmos actually is. I think people also still think today that Atom equals Cosmos because it has Cosmos in its name, right? The Cosmos Hub. So can you maybe define kind of how would you say, what is the core of Cosmos? Is it the tech stack? Is it the philosophy, the app chain thesis? Is it IBC? What is kind of your definition of Cosmos?
So I think for me personally, Cosmos is more about the thesis, which is you can build a sovereign app chain. How you do it, what you want to do with the tech stack is completely up to you. But the idea that you can build a blockchain that is interoperable with every other blockchain in the ecosystem, that is what Cosmos means to me. And we've been building, like I said, since 2019, and the definition of Cosmos is kind of changed, every few months, every few years, where, every new chain would say, oh, I'm a Cosmos chain. But then some chains kind of go out of their way to talk about how they're using the Cosmos tech stack. while on the other hand, some would just steer clear from the Cosmos, kind of like, the Cosmos brand in a way. And there's reasons for that, because sometimes people feel it's hurtful to the brand, sometimes people feel it's great for the brand. So again, for us in particular, as Persistence, the idea is we've been building in Cosmos since the very early days. Like there were 5 chains when we were building in Cosmos. So for us, it's about the idea that you can build an app chain which can do the same things that you want it to do in the exact manner you want the chain to work. You can optimize for every single detail. You can change every single part of the tech stack the way you want to change them. And that is the Cosmos way of building, which is, it's truly modular. It starts from the ground up.
Did you
can
just
change
say
every part.
modular?
I did not.
But I think, like you were saying, like it's all about this app chain thesis. So you were saying you focus a lot on liquid staking and restaking. So would you say like Persistence is basically a Cosmos chain that's like specifically designed for that kind of niche, right? Which is liquid staking or restaking?
Absolutely, which is why we don't go out of our way to do 10 other things. The objective is to do things around liquid staked assets and restaked assets, because those are assets that kind of similar in nature, right? If you look at how C tokens work, which is the compound tokens that came out in 2020, I think every liquid staking product works with the exchange rate model. So we kind of focus on a particular niche, which is working towards creating use cases for liquid stake tokens, and restaking is a big part of creating a use case for liquid stake tokens. And for us, it's not just about Atom, because Atom is a very small part of Cosmos. What Cosmos really is about 20 other chains or 100 other chains. It's the best place to be building restaking, because one, there will be 10,000 new chains in the future. Every chain is going to use a framework because it makes it easy for them to build app chains. And we are betting that Cosmos is going to be at the center of it all. And with Cosmos being at the center of it all, there'll be new chains, which mean new assets, which could have huge economic value, and you could restake those assets. Or you could secure these chains in a big way with some other assets that are being restaked. So that kind of makes it perfect for us to be building a restaking product, even more so than Eigenlayer in a way. Obviously, it's still too early for me to say that, but if, I think Babylon has made a much better bet than Eigenlayer today, and so have we.
Okay, so if Persistence is an app chain for liquid staking, then what is Axelar? An app chain for what?
So Axelar is an app chain for interoperability not just within Cosmos, but across all the ecosystems, right? So I guess to your earlier question about what's so special about Cosmos, to me it's the thesis that there's going to be many chains, there's going to be many sovereign chains, and the way to scale is horizontally. And I think a big validation for this thesis is what we're seeing with Ethereum today, right? The earlier, I think, approaches for scaling Ethereum have been put aside, and no matter whether, we're going to have layer 2s, layer 3s, in a way, those very closely resemble the Cosmos thesis. There are going to be many chains, and we still will need to have interoperability, right? And with Axelar, we're trying to extend this vision of Cosmos to all of the ecosystems so that the developer, a user, will not have to think about operating on multiple chains. And
I think Axelar is also always in like the top 2 or 3 when it comes to volumes, right? For IBC and like generally. Do you have any numbers? Like what's the
not off the top of my head, but yeah, over the past year, I think in terms of IBC volumes, we've been like number 2 of 3. And the reason is simple. A lot of people want to onboard to Cosmos, and we saw a lot of new users this year in onboarding from EVMs. So I think that contributed to our IBC volume as well.
Okay, so Faisal, you said you're kind of similar in the niche as Axelar. Can you maybe like point out some differentiators, how Entangle is like different, and what specifically are you an app chain for in that sense?
Yeah, sorry, I've got a bit of bad throat today. But yeah, so I think with Entangle, we really focus on customizability, and going back to the question of Cosmos, I think what it really is a set of building Lego, and different teams are taking different approaches with this Lego. So for example, you have the data availability layer, you're having rollups now. But I think it's a great tool actually, because even with, for example, with Entangle, we allow users to, or developers to deploy contracts in Solidity, because we chose the Ethermint base instead of the Tendermint. So, there's lots of different tools that Cosmos offers developers, and with IBC, we also looked at IBC, and obviously it's a great piece of innovation, but also it doesn't allow you to connect to the outside realm. So one of the things that we're doing actually is we're building a very interesting omni-chain meme token, which has a financial game on every chain. But that also includes Solana, includes Base, Avalanche. So you can actually deploy a smart contract on the Entangled blockchain utilizing our agent network, and not just the validators of the Cosmos blockchain. You can actually now control the supply, the distribution, create this trustless bridge, and allow people to engage in a very fun way across Solana and EVM, utilizing our sort of Cosmos-based infrastructure, which is our blockchain. But we also looked at that, and that's not the be-all and end-all. You can actually build your own tools around the Cosmos SDK and the tools available through Cosmos to allow you to do a lot more flexible, customizable activities. And one of those we're showcasing is through Borpo token, which is a very interesting, it's not even just a meme, it's actually a financial game that's deployed across multiple different ecosystems, both EVM and non-EVM.
Yeah, Zon, you just got very excited about the word modularity. What
I
does it
think
mean?
modularity is the best rebrand Cosmos has ever done. I think for a long time, people were pretty scared to say that they were a Cosmos chain, especially during the bear market and especially after events like the Terra collapse. But I think like Cosmos is ultimately the most flexible blockchain stack to build unique application chains. Like systems like the OP stack right now, you're getting basically copy-paste forks of the exact same thing over and over again. But the only unique and interesting chains are built on top of the Cosmos SDK. This is why you have things like Hyperliquid, which no one thinks is a Cosmos chain, BNB chain, Celestia, Axelar, Initia, etc. Right? Persistence, Entangle. Basically, all of these cool, awesome new blockchains are built with the Cosmos SDK. So I describe Cosmos as just being anyone that uses the SDK. I think this idea of like owning your own sovereign blockchains extends past Cosmos ecosystem, as we've seen with other rollup frameworks and like application-specific frameworks. But yeah, I think modular is something that helps encapsulate like that larger ecosystem that extends past Cosmos itself. So I would describe things within the OP stack or Arbitrum Orbit and those types of things as within the modular landscape. And Initia is a Cosmos SDK chain itself, but I'd say like we tend to describe it more so within the modular stack. I think we, in a sense, are trying to rebuild what Cosmos originally was trying to do. And so, in a sense, Initia is like a better version of Cosmos, in my opinion. It's like a more lightweight and scalable way to use the Cosmos SDK to build application-specific blockchains without some of the biggest barriers you had traditionally, which are things like running a layer 1 validator set, inflating your token supply to pay out for that security, and being able to use the frameworks that we have now to solve some of the bigger problems within Cosmos, which were things like fragmentation, and just the fact that there were so many cooks in the kitchen. So one of the advantages of being able to rebuild this layer 1/layer 2 solution in-house, like holistically as one product, is that we can see what's worked within the Cosmos ecosystem before, see how the rollup frameworks on Ethereum have developed, and then ensure that we build a new system that kind of solves a lot of these biggest pain points.
Yeah, so for me, I think one of the biggest selling points why I kind of got and stuck with Cosmos and got into Cosmos was this whole idea that it's not trying to be an Ethereum killer, or it's not trying to be whatever, like replace everything, right? It's actually trying to synergize with everything. And I think the modularity thesis is taking that to kind of a new level. Would you also subscribe to this? Basically that the whole Cosmos philosophy is more to synergize and kind of try to add value to the whole crypto economy?
Super WAGMI vibes.
Bullish.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, it hasn't pitched itself as an Ethereum killer, that's for sure. And I think the fact that, the tools that we've built around that ecosystem for even collection of Web2 data to bring it onto the Cosmos chain, to authenticate that information and then transfer that information across to different blockchains, showcases that it's a facilitative infrastructure. It's not there to try and claim Ethereum spot, because that's pretty difficult to do. So yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, to me, it doesn't really matter, right, how we position it. At the end of the day, the Cosmos SDK is the best stack to launch a new chain. It is the most flexible. It is the easiest one. I don't think you could build things like Initia directly on an Ethereum layer 2. Maybe eventually, but you're still going to have to use the SDK, right? But at the end of the day, I think what we should all be focusing on as an ecosystem, as an industry, is onboarding new users. And with the SDK, we have the tooling to build amazing user experiences. So to me, whether it's Ethereum, whether it's Cosmos, we already have the tooling. So we should work together and just accelerate towards real-world adoption.
Did you say accelerate or accelerate?
Accelerate. Thanks for catching that.
I think for me, Cosmos, the hub itself, which is Atom is the native token for the Cosmos hub, I think that definitely needs a little bit more of a narrative and a little bit of a push to say, okay, yeah, we're doing this in a big way, we are here to compete. But the ecosystem, I think every chain will kind of become like a Cosmos chain, is what I believe. And that's why I don't think Cosmos is going to kill Ethereum. I think Ethereum is already transitioning into a Cosmos blockchain in a way. With the way it's been, if you look at the Ethereum roadmap over the last couple of years and where it's headed, it's pretty much like the Cosmos tech stack. So I would say Cosmos is kind of like absorbing everything in the ecosystem within its little circle right now, which is going to grow bigger. But I believe like the Cosmos hub obviously can do a lot better in terms of the narrative that it has, the ideas that it has, the value that it captures, all those things. So
I think, the Cosmos Hub is just cooked. I think with things like Ethos and Babylon coming up that are just going to be building what Atom was supposed to do, which is like using those set of validators to secure new networks, is like, firstly, they have the ability to actually ship without all the governance gridlock. And that's why those teams are building out stuff like partial set security before Atom could, even though they had like a 3-year head start. And so I think Atom is somewhat going to fade into irrelevance, but the rest of the Cosmos ecosystem is still going to shine. And the core ethos is that we're building with the idea that we're going to have thousands of blockchains in the future, and that there's no one monolithic chain that's going to be able to handle everything. And I think the main vision was that we have this most flexible stack to build unique blockchains. And then there's this thread of shared underlying infrastructure that allows all these chains to communicate as if they were one network. And I think we still have a long way to go on the UX front to basically bind these thousands of chains together. Right now, it is a huge pain in the ass, but it's also a pain in the ass to use like a monolithic chain. Like if you go use Solana, there's 10 different USDCs. And imagine if you had a new USDC for every app chain that we had right now. And when we have thousands of those, that's going to be like a near impossible thing for users to do. So systems like IBC and these underlying threads that kind of tie all these Cosmos SDK chains together is like a huge advantage for long-term interoperability that Cosmos got right like so many years ago. And I think some of those pieces are what's going to ensure that Cosmos survives into the future.
Yeah, I think it's a very, I don't even think it's a hot take anymore, to be honest, that like the Cosmos Hub is cooked. I think it's pretty much a fact, but what's also a fact is that it's still in the top 40. It's still somehow managed to survive the bear market. So I think it's in this weird kind of spot where, yes, it's kind of dead, but it's still running and there's still something going on. But yeah, I guess we'll see over the years if it fades into irrelevance. But I also think, like we said, like Atom doesn't represent Cosmos, right? The Cosmos Hub is irrelevant in the grand scheme of Cosmos as the idea of the AppChain thesis, IBC, and all these kind of things, right? But one big downside, I think, of this whole AppChain thesis is obviously fragmentation. Fragmentation of liquidity, of users, of marketing. There's like a lot of times, with Cosmos, we even have the same struggle, obviously, that there's no alignment between the core flagship projects in the ecosystem, right? You mentioned some like Celestia, Say Network is a Cosmos chain, Kronos is a Cosmos chain, right? They're all multi-billion-dollar chains, but they also kind of have their own stuff going on, right? So how do you view that? Is that something that you think about, like fragmentation as kind of a challenge or problem, and how do you tackle that for your own ecosystems that you're building? I don't know when to start.
I think, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, happy to. I mean, in time horizon of like 3 to 4 years, I don't think fragmentation is going to be a problem at all, right? If you look at the Cosmos ecosystem today, everything gets routed through a liquidity hub, Osmosis, right? So if you're a user on one chain, you want to move to another chain, get another asset, you can very easily do that through one click. Like there's the skip front end, there's multiple front ends within Cosmos that allow you to seamlessly move between any two chains. And as long as you have a hub through which everything gets routed, there's no need to have fragmentation. I think the reason we have fragmentation is because people have not yet agreed to standards. But in the Cosmos ecosystem, this is not really a problem today, right? Everyone uses the same version of USDC now. With Noble, everyone uses the same version of ETH through Axelar, and I just don't see this as being a problem at all, at least within Cosmos today. And the same vision we can expand over time to the wider EVM ecosystem.
I think there's still a little bit of UX hurdles to deal with, and I believe a lot of that will be dealt with let's say, something like orchestration, which Agoric is working on, right? It allows you to literally like abstract away all the things that happen in the background and only care about the front end that you're using. You don't need to interact with 10 chains. If you want USDC on Osmosis, you don't have to go to Noble, get USDC, bring it onto Osmosis, none of that, right? If you want a liquid stake Atom token that you want to collateralize and borrow against it, you could do all of that in one click across multiple chains using something like orchestration, which is a very big tool in terms of solving for this fragmentation issue. I believe the marketing problem is going to be there. I mean, every chain here is trying to solve their own marketing problems. Nobody's concerned about the Cosmos hub or the ecosystem. So I think that is a very different topic of discussion, but I believe in terms of liquidity fragmentation, user fragmentation, a lot of those problems will be abstracted away in a year or two from now with orchestration, chain abstraction in a big way.
Yeah, and I think a distinction worth making here is that these are not infra problems anymore, right? We have the infrastructure which we did not have until 2 years ago. Now it's everyone's job who is working on the application layer, wallets, to just abstract away the chain, abstract away, like different types of assets completely, right? So we're very, very close, but it's not an infra problem anymore.
Yeah, I also think that if attention is the dominant currency and there are tribes on different chains and different groups, there needs to be some way to unify them, to make them come together, to unify this currency. So I think, obviously, the guys have talked from a technical perspective. There's not too much to add there, really. I think Cosmos is doing a wonderful job, and there are tools now and other interoperability protocols. 2 of them are sitting on this stage that are trying to bridge the interoperability barriers between EVM and non-EVM, and also Cosmos chains. But I think it's very, very clear that the future is heading that way, because take anything, for example, decentralized physical infrastructure, whether it's a meme token, whatever's trending, or the baseline philosophy or the baseline movement is attention. You want to gather as many people to utilize your token or to utilize your application. So I feel the fragmentation issue, solving it at the core root, it's very important in order to give projects a better chance of success as well.
Yeah, I think interoperability stuff and the fragmentation will be solved. Skip team is like the plumbers of Cosmos, and they're literally angels. So we thank them for working on that for us. But yeah, one of the biggest problems originally with Cosmos was just the IBC pairwise dependency problem. And without Skip, that would be a huge pain in the ass. And that's why in Initia's roll-up design, we essentially have only one IBC relay between every layer 2 and the Initia layer 1. And so layer 2 to layer 2 interactions, they route those IBC transactions through the layer 1. And so you technically have fungibility across every single one of these roll-ups. So this idea of liquidity fragmentation just doesn't exist within the multi-chain world that we're trying to build within Initia. And then in terms of kind of aligning a lot of these ecosystems together, I think basically if Atom from the start created a use case for its token across the Cosmos, that could have been solved. But because they didn't, and because there is no smart contracting layer on top, no one really cares about using the Atom token in DeFi too much, and people don't care about using it for security either. That's why you have things like Ethos and Babylon coming to munch them up now. But at Initia, we're thankful for seeing how this played out, because we want to ensure that the init token is like a huge part of the multi-chain world that we're building. So we built this system called Initia VIP, stands for Vested Interest Program, and what it essentially does is it pushes init tokens to these layer 2s and their users for various activities, and I can't share all the details because it's our secret sauce and we'll reveal it soon. But essentially it is building a mechanism that we built to build interesting use cases for the init token across the thousands of rollups that exist on top of Initia in the future, and ensure that you're rewarding these teams for doing so. And in a sense, you're then creating alignment across like a massive multi-chain universe, and I think that is something that you need. You need that financial incentive alignment to be able to tie these systems together, because I think like Mikhail said, like Say does not care what the Cosmos Hub does or what Osmosis does. They're all working on their own problems to solve, and no one's trying to like fight for Team Cosmos, except for you.
Thank you. But yeah, I mean, it's a tough fight to fight, I think. And, you know, in the end of the day, I still think that Cosmos has like, the North Star really is about synergizing. It's also about IBC. It's about like this whole ecosystem as a, you know, in general. And I think in the end of the day, even though it's shaky at times, I think it's still kind of a net positive to be part of the community. But I also know that, you know, like community members from Solana, for example, they look at Cosmos and like, there's no community culture like we have it, right? There's no meme coin culture. There's no joy, there's no fun. It's a very serious ecosystem. So how do you perceive like Cosmos? I mean, you're builders in Cosmos, but how do you perceive this kind of community culture? Is that also something that's maybe a result of the fragmentation, that also the culture gets fragmented? Or what's your views on like culture and community?
Yeah, I think there was a big lack of memes, and I guess community, Cosmos always had the strongest developer community, but I guess no, you know, crypto Twitter culture, if we frame it that way. And I think that's starting to change though. There's at least like 4 or 5 teams off the top of my head. I guess Initia being the first one, Beta Chain, Eclipse are launching, like, you know, the Solana VM, Movement, I believe, is also launching on the Cosmos SDK. And those are folks that have been very deeply involved in the community. You know, they understand memes really well. And I guess my prediction is that this is going to bring a lot of eyeballs, a lot of users to Cosmos. And even in the case of Initia, I think it's going to help push other ecosystems forward, right? So with you guys launching MoveVM on a Cosmos chain and bringing on a lot of, you know, developers that are going to build interesting primitives on top of the chain, you can actually help chains like Sui or Aptos also get adoption, right? Because people will become more familiar with the stack, will build more interesting primitives, and then those developers, you know, will be forked and benefit the other ecosystems as well. So I think there's going to be... Yeah.
It's kind of crazy how VMs have kind of created these ecosystems in and of themselves. Like, for the longest time, Cosmos basically just had Cosmosm. And a lot of people think that Cosmosm is bad. But, I mean, it's an amazing language. It's like the only smart contracting language that I properly know. But I feel like VMs created these ecosystem distinctions in and of themselves. Do you think that because Cosmos in the future will have basically every VM and it'll be the only stack that has multiple different VMs that you can use, we'll be able to unite a lot of these different ecosystems? Maybe you know.
Me?
Yeah, I'm asking
you. Asked the moderator a question.
That's right.
I mean, I guess that's kind of the end game, right? That's like where Cosmos wants to get to in the end, right? It's like to build the ultimate modular layer for everyone to build whatever they want, right? So I don't know. I mean, I think Celestia brought a lot of eyeballs to the Cosmos ecosystem coming out of the bear market, like you were saying. I think 2022 was a very tough year for Cosmos as an ecosystem. After the UST collapse, that literally drained $40 billion overnight. And with it also a lot of developer mindshare and everything. But I feel like it came out very strong as an ecosystem out of this kind of two-year bear market. And you mentioned also Berachain. I think that's also going, and also capital into the ecosystem to fund this development. I think it's still a long road, and there's many different components. You know, that's why I wanted to talk also about the community culture, even the investors landscape, right? I think all VCs, they're primarily interested now in Solana over Cosmos. Yeah, I feel like we're on track. I don't know how you feel about it?
I feel like the big problem for connecting Cosmos's culture is there.
About it.
I feel like the big problem for connecting Cosmos's culture is there's not a single coin that everyone can fight for, right? Like on anyone that's building on
Bad
Ethereum.
kids.
I think actually, if there was an IBC token, then everyone in the community would have something to fight for. But like that's why Ethereum and every single one of its rollups are so aligned, because everyone's fighting for ETH. The same goes for Solana, but Atom didn't catch on like that.
But I feel like it was also like a conscious design decision in the beginning to not have an IBC token, right? To not peg Atom to the kind of development of IBC and the rollout of IBC. I don't know if IBC would be as successful if that was the case. I don't know if IBC would be as successful if that was the case, right? Because that would mean everybody was forced to be bullish on Atom, which could drive alignment, but also maybe slow down development.
It's hard to, for every, he was on BlockCrunch, he was talking about Cosmos, and he said something which obviously at that moment triggered me, but now that I think about it was so true. He said, if you want to see the future of blockchains, go to Cosmos. It just won't happen in Cosmos. And that's so true, you know. It's kind of what I feel about
I
Cosmos.
think the biggest bull case for Atom over the past years has always been that Atom is kind of the base token for airdrops, right? And I think bootstrapping the whole Cosmos IBC economy, which most of these chains are L1s, they want to bootstrap their liquidity and initial token holder base to the Cosmos community. And I think the closest, so far at least, that represented the Cosmos community was the Atom community. Osmosis, in the early days, Juno, I think you guys did also a stake drop in the early days. Stargaze, you name it, all these chains, even Celestia, even Dimension, right? They all kind of launched by giving their token to the Atom token holder base. So we know XPRT did an airdrop. AXL, I think you also did an airdrop, Axelar, and
it's been a while. Yeah, it was Osmosis. Yeah,
there was a short claim window, which was really tough to catch. What about you guys? Init airdrop, Tangle airdrop?
Yeah, we did a small airdrop. It's a phased airdrop. We've still got some more airdrops to do over the next months and years. But I think, you know, if you look at the success of the Solana ecosystem, really, there's a massive meme community. People are speculating. At the end of the day, if you look at the deep core of this space, it's a very speculative space by nature. You can see that by perpetuals, volumes, and if we woke up some of our grandfathers from their graves and said, we're buying frogs called Pepe that we can't touch or feel, I'm sure they'd want to go back in straight away. So I think
I'm sure they'd be confused if you were buying frogs or Pepes that you could touch and feel.
Yeah, probably, yeah. So I feel that the fact is that it's very, very speculative. So you've got to have these types of speculation-driven communities. And that is why what we're sort of doing is building, we call it the Trojan horse, Entangled's Trojan horse, which is our omni-chain financial game, which will be available on Solana and Cosmos-based chains, and also Ethereum. So it's interesting times ahead, and we saw that a long time ago, actually. We foresaw memes being very powerful in this bull run, so we started working on this pretty much very early, and testing is going very well, so we're looking forward to showcasing the Trojan horse very soon.
It's on. Init airdrop or no?
I cannot confirm or deny anything.
So yes. Okay, I think we have 1 minute left. So yeah, we talked about some of the challenges, general thoughts. What would you say maybe is kind of what people, I don't know, like an unused weapon that Cosmos has, or something that's severely underrated about the ecosystem that people might not get? Obviously, you're all subscribed to this idea that Cosmos has. You said you want to also evolve this kind of philosophy with Initiate to the next level. So maybe share some concluding words on like
I think
on
what's
a bullish,
cool
positive note, you know?
is that even though every Cosmos chain is kind of fighting for themselves, and there is still no like token that unites everyone together, what's cool is that on the infrastructure side, we're all iterating on the same Cosmos SDK. And so that all the improvements done by like any team, whether they build a new EVM on Cosmos or move VM on Cosmos, the advancements to like the IAVL trees that teams are working on, all those different parts is shared by this entire massive ecosystem. And on Ethereum, like you only basically have like the Ethereum Foundation that's working to improve that. But it's cool that we have like thousands of different isolated teams that are all kind of working together to improve this foundational stack that all of us will use, and we think will be like the biggest stack in the future.
Yeah, from our side, it's the customizability. I think really just we worked quite closely, obviously, with the chain itself, with the SDK, and customized it to what we needed it to do. So it's very customizable. I think you can build a lot around it. It's not the finished product by any means, but if your team is creative enough, it's a great set of tools just to work with. I don't think obviously retail see that because us at the developer level or teams that are working with the technology stack closely, it's very flexible. It's like a Swiss Army knife, I'd say, and you can then build anything around this. And it's got a very powerful consensus mechanism, a very robust, reliable consensus mechanism, and that can give you a great base to spring up from and build whatever you'd deem necessary the space needs.
It's a robust developer community, right? As Zon alluded, there's like dozens of teams at this point that are incentivized to keep the Cosmos SDK alive, and there's more and more that are launching or raising funds every month. And you see it in practice, like let's say there's some bug or someone thinks there's some issue on IBC or Cosmos, you have 10 distinct teams just jumping on a Zoom call right away, trying to fix something, right? So I think there's so much incentive alignment right now with the Cosmos SDK that no matter what happens, to the tokens, to the rest of the ecosystem, the SDK itself and the tooling is going to survive and is going to be widely used in the long run.
It's hilarious that even competitor chains will be working together to improve the stack. And that where else would you see two direct competitors that are fighting over things like liquidity, helping each other build their infrastructure?
I think for me, the answer is very different to infra because I don't think infra pumps the coin. Kidding. But I think Atom, infra will not pump Atom because Atom has infra. I think what Atom needs is kind of a change of the holder base, right? Like Atom holders, what do they care about? They care about staking, that's it. You tell them to do anything else, they don't want to get liquidated at all. Oh, the biggest fear I have is to get liquidated, as an Atom holder. So they don't have that innate need to do some degen stuff that you'd see on other chains. What we want to do, at least from our side, is allow Atom holders to start taking that first step and do the things that they're comfortable doing, which is staking. Restaking is, in a big way, a lot about just staking. The risks, Atom holders are very familiar with those risks. It's slashing risk, 5% double sign, 0.01 downtime. So they know what they're getting into, and I think that's what we need to provide Atom holders to start with, do things that they're comfortable doing, get involved into DeFi, and the moment they start jumping in and the Atom holder base kind of refreshes a little bit, I think Cosmos is in a great state then, but we're nowhere near that just yet, but I'm very sure, it's not too far, at least from where we are today, right? So.
I will say one final thing, which is that I think one of the biggest positive side effects of not having one central chain or token that the whole ecosystem depends on is it makes it more resilient. And I think we saw that actually with the Terra collapse. Yes, it affected liquidity and developer mindshare in the short term, but it didn't collapse the whole Cosmos, right? And I think that's a dependency in Cosmos. It's it doesn't depend on one single chain or token, right? It's this whole app chain thesis really is designed for that. So yeah, I think if anybody wants to connect with any of the speakers, you're probably going to be around for a little bit. And yeah, thanks for having us. Thank you, Belinda, for organizing this. It's been really great.